Okay. So why is the CEO doing testing? Well, CEO's job is to make profit, right? And my history is worked in embedded systems, working on an Ericsson cordless telephone exchange back in the 1997. That's what a system looks like. It's basically a base station with lots of phones talking to each other, 600 phones and 30 base stations, and we had to develop the software in the middle there. And the base station software can't go down, because if you reboot it, that's 600 calls are gone. So I had a team of 12 developers. I was a project manager, and the best thing about this was that when we went to bed at night, 100,000 calls were made every night automatically. I used to love the fact it was working when I'm sleeping. And anyway, I moved on in time, but what it taught me is that if you can automate the testing, you can seriously multiply your productivity. Developers get paid for writing code, they don't get paid for testing, but they have to test. So let's move forward to, why is it clicking not working? So what's the goal of E2E end-to-end testing on Magento then? So instead of developers filling in credit card details every time they do a change to make sure it takes money, can we automate it? So revenue generated when they're doing when they're writing code, not when they're testing. We could always get rid of the testing, but we'll probably get rid of our customers as well, because they're taking money and they probably go to another agency. So I asked myself, what happens if I could test like we did with the Ericsson system, and but do it with Magento? What would that like, and what would the very first test that I could automate do? And it's obviously end-to-end taking payments, because it doesn't matter how bad your website looks, the customer's well happy if clients are paying money, he's going to do the checkout. So the next thing is, what defines a good test? Now, a good test is one that never fails on a working system. And this is the biggest reason why frameworks are tested front end is always put to the wayside, because it fails that often because of the test, not because of the code. So that's my two requirements. Now, web testing is hard. If you just look at this picture here, since 1998, there's been all these test frameworks. At the end, we've got Playwright there. And so since 2020, Microsoft actually brought something really useful out. They brought Playwright out, they made it open source. But the most important thing about the technology they did was they actually, go back, yeah. What they most importantly did was they had an API that allows Playwright to talk directly to the browser. So when the test framework says, I've clicked this button, it actually doesn't try to hover the mouse over the screen and do it through the operating system. It just says, I've hit that button. So that was the first thing to make reliable, which many of the other test frameworks don't have. The next is these things called web-first assertions. And what's beautiful about Playwright, that piece of JavaScript there that you see on the screen, is looking for the add to cart button, and it's going to press it. More importantly, it only presses it first when it appears, when it's enabled, when it's stable, not jiggling around doing fancy stuff, and also it's ready to receive that click event. And those two things, you think, wow, this is great. Now we've got some really stable test framework. And of course, then there's Magento. Oh, so we're backwards. Where are we going here? Right, so, am I going the right way? Right, so, this is one of our clients. It's Philip Kingsley. Anybody's got problems with their hair? There's clinics in New York, so I picked it, as well as London. And basically, if you can run the first video, we're just going to, sorry, stop a second, just leave it on this. It doesn't matter, run the video anyway. Run the video anyway, I'll talk you through. So this is going to be a typical end-to-end test. We're going to navigate to the home page, as you'd expect. We're going to go through, this is the developer side, so we're going to get through some admin. You just cleared the cookie bar, this is how fast testing is. It's waiting for the Recaptcha pop-up for the email address, so it's going to go through that. This is all the junk we have to get out of the way that's not really important to the test, but we need to get to it, so we get to a product and actually add it into the basket. Oh, it's added it, great, excellent. Now we've got to get to the basket. Now we'll start filling in all the names and addresses. And this is just a pain for developers. That's what we do all day long. So here we are, we've put in a demo credit card because it's a dev site, and we're actually going to try and check out. Is it going to do it? Obviously no caching on dev sites because we're still in developer mode, so it's going to run slow, but it runs fast because I won't do anything, let the test do it. So here we are. Go to the thank you page, click small pop-ups so you can see down the bottom the order number. It's been replaced in order. So I thought, hey, this is great. Can we go back to the slides again now, please? Great. So, that one. Right. So, first few things when I started using Playwright was it just didn't work. That looked great, but actually, what I first found out is that Magento's slow. So we have to update the Playwright test files to increase timeouts. So this one I set to about 10 minutes for the entire test to run. And there's also waiting for things like those buttons to appear. It's set to about 5 seconds normally. So you say there's a Recaptcha pop-up for the email address. Comes in at 15 seconds. So I set that to 20. And that solves so many problems to start with. The next is don't try and run parallel tests. I know Playwright's fancy and it theoretically can run all tests all simultaneously. Just make everything reliable. One thread, one test, one at a time. Next, the problem areas. Well, the cookie bar and the lead capture pop-up sometimes come in different orders, and sometimes they come in different orders, sometimes they don't come at all. It's just, but I'm not interested in that. I just want to get to the part where I add the product to the basket. Navigate into products to test. Don't try and use Playwright to click on the navigation bars. They've got all sorts of crazy Ajax going on in there. It's not important. I just need to get to the product test page. That product's not in the menu anyway. We always use a test product, so it can't be shipped if it actually gets through to fulfillment. That product doesn't exist, so you can't ship it. Otherwise, you get lots of things turning up in the post, that's for sure. Next is go to basket. Don't try and use the navigation of the mini basket. Just go to the basket URL. Once you've got the product in there, we're trying to test payment here. And then finally stick in test credit card, and obviously then we get the thank you page. So, all well and good. But now I've got a database full of all these test orders. It's growing like crazy. So I thought, hey, why don't I use Playwright to tidy it all up again? So I thought, okay, let's just log into admin. Oh my God, now we've got, I'm not the robot. So you see, we started getting these little problems with admin straight away. So what's the test going to do? Well, we're going to try and log in. We're going to go to the order. We're going to find the order that was on the thank you page. We're going to do an invoice. Then we're going to do a credit memo and an online refund. This means we can also use it on the live site, which I'll come on to a little bit later. So let's, when we run the, what I did for the first start is I thought I'll try and do the I'm not a robot using AI. So I asked it a little question, can you run the CO2? And I thought maybe I could use AI. And this is the result. So this is actually not the checkout page, but this is create a customer account because I didn't want to give the AI all the encryption keys and everything. But here we are, and AI filled all that for me, and I just said, do it. And it's having to think about it, and I guess it's not a robot, it's AI. So, now, I realise that maybe there's a battle going on, and maybe next week that might not work, so it's not really, back to slides please, maybe not the solution to this problem. So actually, the solution I found is actually an extension which actually allows you to send in a user agent, and it just switches off the Recaptcha. And obviously that's going to be 100% reliable. I mean, Recaptcha at the end of the day, it's only to stop the spammers signing up hundreds of accounts and things, so it's going to be there for all real users that can overwrite it. So let's have fun, and can we now play the cleanup video? Video 3, I think this one is. So here we are, we're going to run through, actually see if we can refund this order. So here we are, no Recaptcha because we sent in that user agent. And, two-factor authentication, not a problem, we'll get Playwright to solve that. So now we've actually got into Magento. I was going to use Mark Schust's module for that until it was written all over that the ECI guys don't like it, so I thought, well, I'll just solve it a different way. Here we are, we've searched for the order, we found the order, it's gone in there, right, navigate it. Now the great thing about this is, anybody making extensions, you could use this to actually log into the admin, set up all the configurations for your extension, so obviously things you could be doing over and over. We wrote a payment extension, some to Stripe for a company called Acquired, and we were running through all the settings, mids, pits, etc. Okay, it's closed, it's finished. Back to the slides, please. So now we've actually done an end-to-end placing an order and an end-to-end admin refunding the order. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. So to get two-factor authentication to pass with Playwright, first thing you've got to do is set up a Playwright user or a user, admin user. So you do that, and the first time you log in as a real user, a real person, and what you see is there's an encryption key that it gives you. Take a copy of that and stick it into, I use an ends.js file. Obviously, you can ignore it, don't stick that in GitHub. I actually keep it in my LastPass, so I just copy paste it into the folder, into the file when I want to use it. And then if you get download this library here, and just import it into your Playwright test, then you can take the username, password, and the key, and it will actually solve the two-factor authentication, which I think is really cool. So now, two-factor authentication, which looked like a real showstopper, actually works. Now, the next thing to deal with is live and dev testing. You can use the same test for testing live and dev sites. However, as you saw on the dev side, there was this funny little form at the beginning for the developers that they had to fill in, so real people can't try and buy off the dev site. So what I've created is a single file of all the parameters, and I just have a bunch of flags that turn off just sections of the test. So on the dev site, I need that get past the developer checkbox. On the live site, for some reason, there's a pop-up comes after you log into admin. So on the dev site, it's not. So this is how you can turn off and use the same test that you've got working. Right, so let's move on again. And now we come back to that second requirement was, how do you make tests that's 100% reliable on a reliable Magento site? So if it fails, it really is a Magento problem. Playwright has this great feature. It's called repeat each. And what that line there does is it will run that test 10 times on each browser. This is Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, and it will run. So that's going to run 30 tests because it's 10 times 3. Yeah, 30. You can do it headless or you can do it headed. And if it passes after 30 tests, you can be pretty sure it's getting there. Put 100 in there, put 1,000 in there, put 10, 100,000, go to bed and wake up in the morning, just like I used to do back in the 1980s, 1990s. So, moving forward, that's how you know if your tests are reliable. If you find your tests keep failing, they will always fail in the same place. So just put a bit of effort into that area. Get AI to help you. So, can we run the next video? If you don't use Playwright, the reporting is mind-blowing. This is going to run a little video just showing you this 2FA's failed here. I'm going to click on it, open it up. We can see a little more detail about it, which line of the code it's failed on, which section it's gone through. This is a video of the actual test running. Even if it's headless, it still records the video. I think that's pretty cool. And if you go back up, this trace is amazing because the trace file it produces is actually allowing you to move backwards and forwards in the test and actually see the console, the network, and actually really start to understand what it is you need to change. If you go back to slides, please. So, it really is a fantastic tool. And now we come on to a bit of AI, because we always have to do a bit of AI, don't we? So, what's great about Claude Code, which is my favorite AI tool for coding, is there is an MCP for Playwright. And what that allows you to do when you ask Playwright, Claude to do a problem like, why isn't the Recaptcha working, it can actually see all the DOM objects, and it can see everything that's in the console of the browser, the network traffic, timings, the error logs. So it actually, you don't have to copy paste error messages, say this is the error I got consulted. Just look at the errors and come up with an answer. So Claude Code, that's how you install it into CP, and it's just like having a real hardcore test engineer by your side who knows what he's looking at. Other little Playwright things I did with AI. Remember I said about, I got this all working, and then I was thinking, well, actually I don't need to give my developers this. I could just get it to test it every morning without them even knowing. They don't need to do a thing. They can code 100% of the time, and I'll just email them when it breaks. So I just says, just send me an email every morning after you run the tests, and with that simple prompt, I get this beautifully formatted email every morning saying passed, passed, passed. I love it. And then the next one here is, this prompt here is me being very precise, saying, at line 25 and 35, there's a problem. The pop-up sometimes comes, sometimes doesn't, may not come at all. I think you probably need to use something like a try-catch so that you don't actually fail the test if it doesn't happen. And sure enough, that pop-up solution you saw was implemented through AI doing that. And if you would like bits and pieces, it's not a fully working test, but it's got all the fancy little bits and pieces, so if you're a techie, you can obviously look at the code and say, oh, that's a cool idea, or maybe you don't. Or I've got a better way of doing it then. By all means, grab the barcode, download a zip file, and start end-to-end testing on Magento site.